So I'm going to steal a line from you in past years, but I truly believe, not that I don't to typically ride along with your perspective, but this year in the ACC, it is all about Miami. I have not seen as clear a path since Florida State 10 years ago, Jameis Winston, or Clemson since then for about
Yeah.
5 years, where it was just like, as long as this team doesn't screw it up, they are the best. They are clearly the best, and it would have to take, in the way that the league is set up with the championship game. Obviously, it comes down to a championship game, and somebody's got to show up. So, regardless of how much they dominate the league, and let's say they go 8-0, there might be a 6-2 team show up, and they're going to have to deal with them for 3 hours, regardless of how dominant they are. So, there's always that possibility. But in regards to dominating the conference schedule and being the clear-cut number one seed in this conference, wow, a lot's going to have to happen to change my mind and see something different.
Yeah, and in a few weeks after that bye week, that Miami Louisville game is looming huge. That looks like a potential like game day game. Like that one seems to be by light years number 1 and 2 of this conference. And I know Louisville fans are gonna say, well, who's 1 and who's 2? I think it's pretty clear that Miami's 1 and Louisville's 2. But like, I think that there's a huge gap between those teams and everybody else in this conference. So yeah, it's going to be that's going to be a really interesting day coming off of bye up in Louisville. But yeah, that's for the future. Now focusing on USF. Falconer was on campus for Ball State, Stanford Residential College. The dorm that I lived in my entire time at Miami has been torn down. But campus is amazing and getting better. They're rebuilding and building something new in its spot and everything. But yeah, right there on the lake, a 4-minute walk, or if that, from the School of Music. Like I lived in that dorm because I had the rest of my life to live off campus, and I could literally from either, because there were 2 towers, was Rosborough Tower and Walsh Tower. Was on Walsh 12 for a couple of years, and then Rosborough 9 for a couple of years. But literally, depending on how things shook, I could wake up late for class. If I caught the elevator on my floor, I could be from my bed to my seat in the School of Music within 3 minutes. So, hey, that is a little tough, for me and all my buddies. Shout out to the Penthouse Punishers watching that, 2002 Sports Fest champions of the world. But yeah, it is getting better on campus.
All right. Is there anything of note from the 62-0 shellacking that I have to admit I saw nothing of?
Honestly, it was just everybody executing to a high level, but still leaving meat on the bone. Cam Ward missed a couple throws. There was one, Xavier Strepo was up open on the left sideline, all alone, wide open. But Cam decided to roll out, escape the pocket to his right. And that would have been a ridiculous throw back, like to stop and flip it, the other way. The only time that I've seen a quarterback do that, and I hate to say this because I hate this team, the Detroit Lions beat the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs 38-3 in 91. Or
38-6.
38-6, excuse me. And then ran into one of the best 5 teams in the history of the NFL, the Redskins, the next year, and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. The next year,
best in history. Really?
They were an incredible team. They were
an incredible team. Yes.
What we can debate whatever later. Oh, sorry. I'm messing around and turned my light off that's bouncing off here, so I look like a non-playable character. Anyways, the next year we hosted the divisional round against the Green Bay Packers, and we were winning. And Brett Favre was rolling to his left at the Pontiac Silverdome, stopped and threw a dime up the right sideline, blind on a dime to Sterling Sharp, and broke my heart. That was the beginning of my super hatred of the Packers. And I have no idea how he made this to this day. There's no, because it wasn't even one where he was rolling, saw it on the big screen, and he just was running for his life, stopped and threw a dime 60 yards. It would have been that in reverse, rolling to your right, stopping and throwing to the left, if Cam Ward would have made this throw to Xavier Restrepo on that one play. And I said I hate to say that because, you know, football trauma, but you get my point. So there was that. The early on, the thing that is still a little concerning is the run game early, being able to generate plays and things. The success rate is really high on the run game, being on first down, getting 40% of the needed yards, second down, 60% of the needed yards, third and fourth down, all of the needed yards if you're running the ball. So the success rate is high, but that's a little misleading because you're still having not great on-field success running it when we like want to line up and mash your face. So I'm interested to see that. That continues to be a talking point for Mario Cristobal, so he sees it as well. So if you're like, well, you know, you're just a commentator. The coach said the same thing, guys. So, you know, that validates what I'm saying. So you really want to see that. The positives, getting another, you know, CVS receipts worth of participation report, you know, like another 17 true freshmen or 20 or something played in that game. Emory Williams, in one of his 4 appearances that he can have this year while still redshirting, goes 11 for 12 and should have been 12 for 12 off the bench, throwing the ball. Maybe making me question if, because before I said I don't believe next year's starting quarterback is on this roster. If Emory Williams is doing what he's doing and continues to develop, that could very much prove me to be wrong. So, you know, the second and third string upheld the shutout all the way through. That was a big thing that even from the FAMU game, like they started to move the ball a little bit and we kind of had to, you know, we were rotating really early against FAMU and said, let's put the starters back in and, you know, bow up in the red zone and hold them to field goals, no touchdowns. So there was that. That's a little bit of a thing. And also the success rate for Miami's offense between the 11 and the 20-yard line is pretty horrendous right now. Like if I look over, I went over to Florida State's stat profile because I was laughing at them. But between like the 11, where is it? I saw it on the sheet. It's really bad. In between the 11 and like that's the only one. The other places on the field are good. But like the 11 to the 20, and then we need to finish drives with 7s instead of 3s. I'm not trying to say kickers aren't people too. I know Mrs. The Borregala's mom always takes exception when I say we need to have touchdowns and field goals. She'll like, you know, she'll screenshot the good, the bad, and the ugly, say kickers are people too. Kickers are people too. They are. But I need them to be kickers from like 40. I don't need 22-yard field goals when we stall on the 5-yard line. That's all I'm saying. Like it's great that we have, you know, the second Borregales brother, I believe is one of the best kickers in America. Abram Murray, who was a top kicker recruit last year, coming in, you know, kicking some extra points and everything as he probably redshirts to then step into the big role next year when, you know, Andres Borregales moves on. Also great and way better than Bubba Baxa, by the way. So if you're thinking, oh my God, this is another future guy, he's already on the roster. He was like the number 2 kicker in America or number 1 last year was Abram Murray. Already better than Bubba Baxa, so don't think there's that comparison there. So, like, there are some things to grow with, and you know, I think that the team knows that.